Hey there, and welcome. I'm so glad you're here tonight. I've been diving deep into the Reddit rabbit hole, and I found some stories that I just had to share. Stories that make you think, stories that make you feel, and stories that just might make you say, "Wait, what?" So let's relax, unwind, and let these Redditors take us on a journey. Story 1. My dad does stupid things on a fairly regular basis. Here are a few of his. He was in the local hardware store and wanted to test out a clamp. For some reason, he thought it'd be a good idea to clamp it on his hand. He couldn't get it off and had to walk around the store for ages trying to remove it. He had what he thought was a bottle of orange juice, so he shook it up to evenly distribute the pulp. Unfortunately, when he opened it, he realized it was a bottle of soft drink and it was spraying out. In a panic, he put his mouth on the bottle to stop it, and his cheeks filled with fizzed-up soft drink. Funniest thing to watch. For my 18th, we hired a boat, and the rental guy was giving Dad instructions on how to work it since he'd never driven one before. The guy says something like, "So does that make sense?" And my dad was all, "Yep, got it." The guy left, and my dad casually asked if anyone knew what he said because Dad forgot to listen. He had to get out of the marina, dodging million-dollar boats, and kept lurching in the wrong direction. My mum was terrified. He tried to wipe super glue off his hands using paper towel and ended up with bits of paper towel glued to his fingers. When I was in school, everybody had a Surf brand shoulder bag. My parents cheaped out and got me a no-name backpack. One day, one of the straps broke, and I was really excited because it meant they'd get me a good one. Except my dad decided he would cut off the strap, thus turning it into one of those cool shoulder bags I wanted. Problem was, he accidentally cut off the one good strap. We were waiting for my mum to finish at the hairdresser's, and Dad points in the window and says, "Wow, Mom looks great." The chair swivels around and it's some random dude. A couple of weeks ago, I got a text from him that said, "Could you come over when you're free? I'm locked in the loo." It turned out he was repainting the toilet door and took off the handle but left the actual lock part on. So when he went to paint the inside, he became trapped. I had to actually go to his house to free him. Story 2. In 2002, I followed the band Weezer for 5 shows on their Dusty West tour. I was with my girlfriend and best friend. The whole road trip was just an amazing experience, and we managed to not hate each other at the end. We also had a fake band. Our motto was, "Get popular, then make music." We set up a website for the band to tell our story and created shirts to wear at each show on the tour. It was the lamest, most awesome thing ever. At the end of the first show, we began taking to Weezer's new bass player, Scott, and he asked about the shirts. We stuck to the story of it being our band, and we were going for additional exposure. We asked if he wanted a shirt, and he said yes. We gave a shirt to him at a future stop. He liked it. Our fun with it had ended. The last stop on our road trip was our hometown. A whole group of our friends were joining us for the concert. The whole show was enjoyable. However, when they came out for the encore, Scott was wearing our band shirt. So that is the story of the only time our band ever had any sort of appearance on stage. Story 3. I enjoyed tracing my life's events and happenings back the smallest of details that had the most profound impacts. Long before I was born, my mom had my brother with another man at a very young age. Their relationship obviously failed, and on a whim, while working 2 jobs as an 18-year-old with a 3-year-old, took a trip to the horse track to show her son the ponies. She made a bet on an extreme long shot and won nearly $4,000 in 1,980. With the money, she escaped, just picked up and left and started traveling west. Somewhere along the way, she met my dad, and they had me. I'm the result of a long-shot trifecta bet at a horse track, and because of that, I always enjoy visiting the horse track in whatever city I visit, hoping that a landfall win will lead me on a journey beyond my wildest dreams. Story 4. I like to look back at those tiny life events that happen to have huge significance too. For me, the best one is my granddad during WW2. He was in the Navy and was training at a naval base while waiting to be assigned his post on a ship. The crew, officers, etc. did various things to keep fit, including volleyball, which for some reason they played on a woodchip-floored court. Anyway, one day Granddad is playing and goes to try and keep a ball from hitting the ground, dives full length and scrapes his arms up on the wood chip. No, I don't know if he saved the ball, sadly. From this minor injury, he gets blood poisoning and is sent home to recuperate. The ship he missed? Sunk with all hands lost. I forget the name of it now, but it happens to be a sinking they caught on film as 3 German torpedoes hit it aft, middle, and stern. So if you've ever seen old black and white movies with ships being sunk, they actually used to use this particular ship sinking a lot because it was so well captured on film and because it is quite literally blown to smithereens. One thing my granddad used to say as well was that he never saw a shot fired in anger during the war. The ships he won did patrols and escorts, etc., but by some twist of fate, each ship he was on, at the time he was on them, was never attacked, and was never ordered to attack either. Quite amazing, really, I think. Thanks, Granddad, for trying to make that shot at volleyball. Story 5. My cat Maxwell just died, so this is probably an appropriate time to share my weirdest story about him. This happened about 3 weeks after we had first gotten Max. I was around 8 or 9 at the time, and I was attending one of those weekly day camps for kids whose parents don't have time to entertain them over the summer. I had just gotten home and was chilling in the playroom upstairs. Now, one thing to note about Max is that he was a very friendly cat. He would greet me at the door every day and snuggle with me upstairs while I indulged in some Ed, and Eddie. So you can probably imagine my surprise when Max wasn't at the door and didn't show up after an entire episode of Teen Titans. After another 30-minute block of programming, I began to grow worried about my furry friend's absence. But then suddenly I heard something, a sound I had grown very accustomed to over the past few weeks. Max's meowing. I could hear it coming from somewhere in the room, and eventually pinpointed the noise to the wall next to my Lego shelf. It's worth noting at this point that the night before this incident occurred, we had been having some issues with the house's alarm system going off randomly. Because of this, workers from the security company had been digging around in our attic all morning, trying to combat the problem. Anyway, now that I realized where the meowing was coming from, I immediately flipped a shit. Or spazzed out, as I probably would have said back then, and ran to get my mom. She came and took a listen, and confirmed that the dumb bastard was indeed in the wall, still meowing away. At this point, my mom decided to call animal control, and they said that they could either charge us a couple $100 to send a guy over to the house and smash a hole in the wall, or we could do it ourselves. So naturally, my mom got a mallet from the garage. However, while she was gone, the unthinkable happened. Max stopped meowing again. He may not have been meowing when I entered the room initially, but now that I knew he had the capability to make sound, and that he wasn't now for some reason, I once again freaked out. After all, this was the Bible Belt South, famous for its disgustingly hot, humid summers. So, of course, I feared the worst for the poor little creature trapped in what was basically an oven. When my mother returned, I told her the news, and I could see the fear in her eyes. But despite the growing uneasiness, there was still a job to do. My mom lined up the mallet, and with one fell swoop, made a nice hole in the wall. After a few seconds of waiting, nothing happened. Once again, the wall was struck, increasing the size of the hole. Unlike the last time, however, a glimmer of hope crept onto the horizon. After the second whack, the meowing started again, more panicked and frenzied than ever. The wall was then struck a third time, and out leapt the grimy, disgusting, shit-covered, literally mess of a cat that had been trapped in a wall for hours. In our overwhelming relief, we barely even noticed how gross he was while we embraced him. After showering him off, we pieced together that he must have run up into the attic while the security guys were here, and then fallen through a hole in the floor and into the wall. Max ended up living for another 10 years with us, and just recently passed away. I miss him like crazy, but I can't help but smile when I look back on how insane this afternoon was with him. Story 6. TIFU by trying to talk about my feelings. I don't know how to start this, or if anyone will even see this, but God, I am such a fucking idiot and I hate it. I was talking to my girlfriend over text. I hate opening up to people in person. I know it's stupid, but I did, and randomly dumped on her about how I feel about my life. I used phrases like I am done, or I don't want to do this anymore. I said I felt like shit, but I was not specific enough, and she must have thought it was about me and her. It was not. She told me to kill myself and removed me on things I had her added on, and deleted my number, etc. I have no way of contacting her now. I pray she comes around eventually and realizes I didn't mean her, but I am such a fucking idiot and I hate it. I hate how badly I must have made her feel. I will never live this down. She means the world to me, and I destroyed everything. I wrote her a letter, which was 7,000 words long, describing how I feel about her and how badly I know I've fucked up. In case she does add me back on anything. However, she won't see it until she does. I am a wreck. I don't know what to do. I have thrown away years we had together over miscommunication. I made her feel like shit over trying to ask for some help with my feelings. She was always helpful and so good to me. I pray she comes around eventually. I haven't seen her since before I told her. It hasn't been long since I did this. Sorry that it is not today. However, I feel I need to talk about it in some capacity. So whoever is reading this, then thank you. I don't want to pester her or be annoying by trying to constantly make attempts to contact her. That may just leave me in a worse spot than I am in now, but I don't know what to do, and it is killing me. I was going to propose to her in the near future. I have destroyed my life unwittingly. I was fucking stupid, and I hate myself for it. TL. Dr. I fucked up my relationship by trying to explain my feelings to my girlfriend, told her I'm done and can't do it anymore, meaning life. She interpreted it as me and her, told me to kill myself. And now I have no way of contact as she will not speak to me. I was planning a future with her, but now have ended up wasting the years we had together. Edit. I'm deciding to move on. Reading the kind comments was like a wake-up call in a sense. And I guess it's life. Things happen and people grow apart. Not too much I can do to prevent this. Thank you all for your support. Edit 2. Found out she was cheating on me. Story 7. My stepdad told me the best story I've ever heard. He was an undergrad for electrical engineering, and his class project was to create something. I forget what the specifics were. This was back in the 70s, so his idea was to create a cable box that unscrambled the code to get the Playboy channel on TV without having to pay for it. He was almost done but couldn't figure out this last part, so he asked for help. The older kids in the class also couldn't figure it out, so they told him to take it to Smokey. Smokey was this guy that lives out in the middle of nowhere. My stepdad drives out there to his little shack with a semi-truck parked outside. Smokey opens the door and invites him in. They begin to talk, and my stepdad tells him about his problem with his cable box. After Smokey tells him how to fix it, my stepdad asks how he even knew how to do that, seeing as he was this random guy in a shack in the middle of nowhere. Smokey told my stepdad how he used to be an engineer for the government and created the Sidewinder missile but got fired or something like that. My stepdad is thinking this guy is schizophrenic when Smokey says, "Come look at the proof." He takes him to a closet where, sure enough, he has all the legal documents of the Sidewinder missile plans with confidential stamped all over. My stepdad is in disbelief, but then asks why they call him Smokey. The guy says that he started driving a semi-truck after he was released from the government and hated that cops were monitoring his speed. So, being a brilliant engineer and all, he created this thing that looked like a foghorn and attached it to the top of his semi. This is where I get bad with the details. When the cops pointed their radar guns at him, it would send a signal to his moving vehicle by vibrating a tiny crystal in between two metal plates. The signal is supposed to bounce off of a car and come back to the gun, and however hard the crystal vibrates would translate into a reading of how fast the car was going. Smokey's device would take that signal, amplify it by 1,000, send it back to the radar gun, and the crystal would vibrate between the plates so hard that it would break the gun and essentially start smoking. Then the road was clear for all the semis to go as fast as they pleased. My stepdad is thoroughly amazed by this point and finishes up with Smokey. He goes back to class and tells his professor that in order to show him how his project worked, he had to be using a TV. So my stepdad and his professor go back to my stepdad's apartment, and my stepdad plugs in the device that successfully unscrambles the code. The Playboy channel comes in clearly. The professor said, "Good job." And then, without another word, he unplugged my stepdad's device and took it with him as he left. Story 8. I thought my husband was just working late, until I found his secret. I always joked that my husband Mark was married to his job, but I never imagined he was actually married to someone else. I'm 42, a stay-at-home mom to our two kids, Ethan 16 and Lily 12. Mark, 45, works in real estate development and has always had a demanding schedule. Late nights, weekend meetings, urgent client calls, these were normal. I was used to being the primary parent, running the house while Mark focused on work. But over the last year, things started to feel off. At first, it was little things. He'd started paying more attention to his appearance, buying expensive cologne, getting his hair styled instead of his usual $15 barber cut, and working out obsessively. He was on his phone constantly, but would put it face down when I walked into the room. The biggest red flag? He started being on call during holidays and family events, times he used to fiercely protect. I tried to push down my suspicions. After all, he'd always been a hard worker, but deep down I felt something was wrong. Then came the moment that shattered my world. Last month, Mark went on a business trip for a long weekend. It was odd because he didn't usually take weekend trips, but he claimed it was a networking retreat and insisted he had to go. On the second night of his trip, my son Ethan came into the living room, phone in hand, looking confused. "Mom, isn't Dad supposed to be in Chicago?" "Yeah, why?" I asked, suddenly alert. "Because I just saw his car, parked outside a Target like 5 minutes from here." My stomach dropped. Ethan had been hanging out with friends and spotted Mark's unmistakable black Mercedes. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe his flight got canceled. Maybe he had to come back early. Maybe. But deep down, I knew. I told Ethan I'd take care of it and grabbed my keys. I drove straight to the Target, adrenaline making my hands shake. Sure enough, there was Mark's car, parked near the entrance. I pulled into a spot where I had a clear view and waited. 5 minutes passed, then 10, and then I saw him. Mark walked out of the store, holding the hand of a little girl. A girl who looked about 5 or 6. My vision blurred. I blinked hard, trying to process what I was seeing, and then she walked out after them. A woman, maybe late 20s, pushing a shopping cart filled with groceries. She was laughing at something Mark said, looking at him with familiarity. With love. Mark bent down to pick up the little girl, kissing her forehead as she giggled. I thought I was going to throw up. I sat there, frozen in my car, watching my husband be husband, a father to a child I had never seen before, be a partner to a woman I had never met. Eventually, they all got into his car, and he drove away. I sat in that parking lot for a long time, trying to breathe, trying to think, trying to make sense of how my life had just been obliterated in a matter of minutes. The next day, when Mark got home from his business trip, I confronted him. I didn't beat around the bush. I told him I saw him. At first, he tried to lie, said I must have been mistaken. But when I told him I saw him kiss that little girl, his face turned pale. He sat down, ran his hands through his hair, and said nothing for a long time. And then, finally, he confessed. For the last 7 years, he had been leading a double life. The woman, Lauren, had been his other partner. The little girl, his daughter. He had a whole second family. I don't even remember what I said after that. I was shaking with rage, heartbreak, disbelief. 7 years. 7. That meant Lily was 5 when this started. Ethan was only 9. He'd been living 2 lives for almost half our marriage. Mark started rambling about how he never meant to hurt me, how he never planned for it to happen, how he didn't know how to stop once it started. He swore he still loved me, that he loved both of us, that he was doing his best. I didn't want to hear a damn word. I kicked him out that night. The days after were a blur. I told the kids, which was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Ethan took it with quiet fury, while Lily sobbed for hours, confused about why her dad wasn't coming home. I filed for divorce immediately. Then, 2 weeks later, I got another bombshell. Laurent, the other woman, reached out to me. She was just as blindsided as I was. Mark had told her that I was his ex-wife, that we had been divorced for years, but were staying on good terms for the kids. She thought I knew about them. She had no idea he was still married to me. We talked for hours, swapping stories, piecing together the years of lies. The pain in her voice mirrored my own. She had built a life with this man, trusted him, loved him, just like I had. In the end, Mark lost everything. He lost me. He lost Lauren. He lost the trust of his kids. Before we move on, let's give ourselves a few seconds to unwind. Feel the weight of your body settling into your chair or wherever you're listening from. Imagine any tension melting away. Listen to the gentle rhythm of your own breathing. There's no rush. Just allow yourself to be present in this moment without any expectations. Just breathe and let the story settle. We'll be right back. Ready to continue? Let's get back to the story. Story 9. And the irony? He had the nerve to be angry at us. Angry that we had connected, that we had ganged up on him. He begged me not to ruin his relationship with Ethan and Lily, but that wasn't my decision. That was his doing. Ethan refuses to see him at all, and while Lily still talks to him, she's hesitant, confused. As for me, I'm slowly rebuilding. It still hurts. Some days I wake up and forget for a second that my life completely fell apart. Then it all comes rushing back. But I refuse to let him break me. He had 2 lives, 2 families. Now he has neither. A couple of years ago, my best friend Eli and I almost ended our friendship over a board game. I know how ridiculous that sounds, but in the moment it felt huge. We'd been best friends since college, part of a tight-knit friend group that had somehow survived post-grad life. But that night, everything sort of cracked. It was supposed to be a normal game night at Eli's apartment. The plan was for all 4 of us, me, Eli, Lena, and Gemesto, hang out like we always did. But Lena bailed last minute. Then James texted, "Can't make it. GF needs me." Which, whatever, but it was the 3rd time in a row. So it was just me and Eli, and instead of rolling with it, things got weirdly tense. I don't even remember what set us off. One second, we were deciding whether to play Catan or Ticket to Ride, and the next, Eli was snapping, "I'm so sick of being the only one holding this group together." That hit me wrong. I told him no one asked him to take that responsibility, and suddenly we were in a full-blown argument about who cared more, who put in more effort, who was letting the group fall apart. At one point, I nearly walked out. Not because I was mad, but because I hate confrontation. That's kind of my thing. I joke around, keep things light. I'm not the serious talk friend. That's Eli. But as I stood there, watching him rub his temples in frustration, something clicked. He was always the one checking in, the one planning things. And yeah, I cared about our friends, but I never really showed it the way he did. So instead of leaving, I sat down and said, "I do care, man. I just don't know how to show it like you do." That diffused everything. We sat there in silence, eating cold pizza, before Eli finally laughed and said, "You know, for a second, I thought you were gonna storm out like in a dramatic movie scene." I laughed too. Please, that's too much effort. Things didn't magically go back to how they were. Our group still changed, but Eli and I figured out something that night friendships take effort from both sides. And sometimes, just showing up is enough. Story 10. We almost threw everything away over a house. I never thought a house could nearly end my marriage. But last year, my wife and I almost made the worst decision of our lives. We've been married 14 years, no kids, solid careers, a life we built together. We'd been renting in the city for a while, waiting for the perfect time to buy. Then we found the house. It was everything we wanted: quiet neighborhood, big kitchen for her, a garage for me, even a little garden space. It was more than we planned to spend, but we convinced ourselves it was now or never. At first, we were on the same page. We both wanted it badly. Then reality set in. I started running the numbers over and over, and they just didn't look good. Even if we could afford the monthly payments, we'd be house poor. Our savings would take a massive hit. No vacations. No emergency cushion. Just stress. I brought it up to her one night, expecting her to feel the same way. Instead, she got defensive. She said I was backing out, that I always hesitated when it came to big decisions. I said she was being reckless. It turned into a full-blown fight. For days, we barely spoke. Every conversation circled back to the house. It was like we were on opposing teams, not partners. At one point, she said, "If we don't get this house, I don't know what we're even working toward." That hit hard. It felt like everything we built was on the line over 4 walls and a roof. Then, something clicked. We weren't fighting about the house, we were fighting about what it represented. Stability, progress, the life we thought we needed to have. So we stopped talking about the house and started talking about us. What we wanted, what scared us, what really mattered. And once we did that, the decision became clear. We let the house go. It hurt, but almost immediately, we felt relief. We weren't ready to be tied down like that. We weren't willing to trade our peace of mind for a mortgage that would own us. A year later, we're still renting, and we're happier. We travel, we save, and when we finally do buy, it'll be on our terms, not out of fear or pressure. Sometimes the best decision is the one that keeps your life from becoming something you never wanted in the first place. Story 11. Taifu by accidentally giving my boss an existential crisis. So this happened yesterday, and I'm still trying to figure out how to recover. I work at a small office, and my boss, let's call him Gregis, one of those super serious, no-nonsense types. The kind of guy who drinks black coffee, wears the same 3 suits in rotation, and probably ironed his socks. You get the vibe. Anyway, we were having a casual chat in the break room, and I was just trying to fill the silence, so I randomly asked, "Hey Greg, what's your dream job?" He just blinks at me. I can tell he's never even considered this before, so I chuckle and say, "You know, like if money wasn't an issue, what would you want to do?" He goes silent, like full-on buffering. His eyes go distant, and I swear I saw his soul leave his body for a second. Then, in the most monotone voice, he says, "I don't know." At this point, I'm kind of nervous, so I joke, "Well, what did you want to be when you were a kid?" He takes a deep breath and whispers, "Happy." Bro. The break room went dead silent. The microwave beeped. Somewhere in the distance, a printer jammed. I had just sent this man into an existential crisis in the middle of a Tuesday. He walked out without saying another word, and I swear I heard him sigh like a man carrying the weight of every bad life choice. Now, the entire office is weirdly quiet, and I feel like I just set off a midlife crisis. How do I fix this? DER asked my boss what his dream job was, accidentally reminded him of his lost dreams. Now I might need a new job. Story 12. I never planned to stay in Maple Grove for long. It was supposed to be temporary, just a place to settle while I figured things out. But somehow, months turned into years, and now I can't imagine leaving. This neighborhood has a way of wrapping around you like a warm blanket. It's not fancy or particularly exciting, but that's exactly what makes it special. Life here is slow, steady, and comforting, like a familiar song you never get tired of hearing. Mornings are my favorite. I wake up to the sound of birds outside my window, their cheerful chatter mixing with the distant hum of a lawnmower. By the time I step outside, the air is crisp, carrying the scent of fresh bread from Mrs. Patel's bakery down the street. She waves at me from behind the counter as I pass by, always reminding me that I should stop in for a croissant. I just took them out of the oven, dear. You'll regret it if you don't. She's right. Of course I always do. On weekends, I like to take my coffee to the park. It's not a big park, just a quiet patch of green with a few benches and an old oak tree that's been there for as long as anyone can remember. There's something calming about watching the neighborhood wake up. Kids ride their bikes along the sidewalks, their laughter ringing through the air. Mr. Thompson, a retired teacher, takes his usual morning stroll, nodding at me as he passes. I smile back. We don't really talk much, but that simple nod feels like a little thread connecting us. Maple Grove has a Sunday market that I never miss. It's small, just a few stalls set up in the town square, but it's perfect. Fresh flowers, homemade jams, hand-knitted scarves. There's a local musician who plays the violin, and something about the soft melody makes everything feel like it belongs in a storybook. I always stop by Miss Eleanor's stand, where she sells little jars of honey from her backyard beehive. She's lived here for over 50 years, and she remembers everything. You remind me of myself when I was your age, she told me once, handing me a jar. Always looking for something, but never quite sure what. I still think about that sometimes. I was looking for something when I came here. I don't know if I ever found it, or if maybe what I needed was simply a place that felt like home. Evenings in Maple Grove are just as peaceful. Porch lights flicker on one by one, and the scent of dinners being cooked drifts through the air. Sometimes, if I leave my window open, I can hear faint laughter from my neighbors' houses. It's a comforting sound, like proof that life is happening all around me, steady and warm. I don't know how long I'll stay here. Maybe another year, maybe forever. But for now, I take comfort in the rhythm of this place, the slow mornings, the friendly faces, the quiet moments that make life feel a little softer. And maybe that's enough. Story 13. So, I work in an office where my boss is that guy you know, the one who schedules meetings that could have been emails, micromanages everything, and somehow still has no idea what anyone actually does. Today, after yet another pointless 45-minute meeting where he explained PowerPoint to us like we were toddlers, I vented to my work bestie. I ranted hard. I was pacing, hands flying, full dramatic performance. And because typing takes too long, I sent her a voice memo. Bro, if this man explains bullet points to me one more time, I'm quitting. He has the IQ of a potato, a rotting potato. I swear he just makes stuff up as he goes. How does someone this dumb make twice my salary? Life is unfair. Anyway, want to get tacos later? Feeling relieved, I put my phone down, and then I saw it. I sent it to my boss. I froze. Time stopped. My soul left my body. The 3 dots popped up, then stopped, then popped up again, then disappeared. I was about to pack up my desk when finally he replied, "Not a rotting potato, I hope. See you at Monday's meeting. We'll go over PowerPoint again, just for you. I might just call in sick for the rest of my life." Story 14. The worst double date of my life. So there I was, sitting across from my best friend's new girlfriend, watching her shove an entire lemon wedge into her mouth like it was a casual Tuesday snack. Meanwhile, my date guy I had met a grand total of once before tonight was aggressively trying to mansplain how to properly hold a fork. This was already shaping up to be a disaster. Let me back up a bit. My best friend Sarah had just started dating this guy Mike. She was obsessed with him, said he was the one after just 2 weeks. Now, normally I would have just smiled and nodded, but then she hit me with, "Please come on a double date with us. Mike has a friend and I swear he's perfect for you." That should have been my first red flag. But being the supportive and slightly gullible best friend that I am, I agreed. Worst case scenario, I get a free dinner, right? Yeah, I wish. We met at a nice Italian place. Mike was already there, all grins and way too much cologne. Sarah beamed at me like a proud mom showing off her kids' macaroni art. And then there was my date, Steve. Steve looked normal enough. A little too much hair gel, but otherwise fine, until he opened his mouth. "Hey, so do you, eat food?" I blinked. "What? Are you one of those girls who only orders salads and then steals my fries?" Sarah's smile twitched. Mike looked so proud of his friend. This was going to be a long night. We sit down, and almost immediately, Steve starts listing off his dietary preferences like he was applying for a job at Whole Foods. I'm on a high-protein, low-carb, keto-adjacent intermittent fasting plan, he says, flexing his arm like I was supposed to be impressed. Meanwhile, Lemon Girl, Mike's girlfriend, in case you forgot, was now peeling the skin off her lemon slice with her fingers. Sarah tried to change the topic. "So, how did you two meet?" she asked, directing the question at Mike and Steve. And this is where things took a turn. Mike grinned. "Oh, dude, tell her the story." Steve chuckled. "Okay, so picture this, I'm at a gas station, right? And I see this guy arguing with the cashier about a scratch-off ticket." Mike interrupted. "Bro, it was a winning ticket. She tried to scam me." Steve continued, Yeah, whatever. Anyway, I step in and help, and Mike's like, "Dude, I owe you one." So I was like, "Cool, hook me up with a hot friend," and boom, here we are. Silence. Sarah was this close to smacking Mike. I was this close to faking a bathroom emergency. Mike, completely unaware of how terrible that sounded, just took a sip of his water. And then the breadsticks arrived. I reached for one at the same time Steve did. Our hands brushed. You know, one of those rom-com moments where you're supposed to lock eyes and fall madly in love. Nope. Steve yanked the breadstick away like I was trying to steal his wallet. "I need the carbs more than you do," he said. "Excuse me?" Sarah gasped. Mike choked on his water. Lemon Girl? She was now licking salt off the rim of her margarita glass like a cat. I slowly withdrew my hand and just stared at this man. "Are you serious?" "Yeah," he said, already munching. "Women store more fat naturally. I burn it faster." At this point, I was contemplating flipping the table. Trying to salvage the night, Sarah suggests we play that dumb two truths and a lie game. Mike went first. His were all weirdly about winning fights. Lemon Girl went next. One of her truths? She once ate an entire stick of butter as a dare. Then it was Steve's turn. "Okay," he said. "One, I've never had a cavity. 2, I can bench press 250. 3, I've never gotten into a physical fight." I was ready to call him out on the bench press thing when Mike goes, "Dude, that last one is such a lie. What about the Chuck E. Cheese fight?" "I beg your pardon?" Sarah's jaw dropped. "You got into a fight at Chuck E. Cheese?" Steve sighed dramatically. "Bro, it wasn't my fault. The guy cut me in line for skee ball." Skee ball. At this point, I had mentally checked out. I started typing a fake emergency text to myself, something dramatic like, "Your house is on fire," so I could escape. But then Steve leaned in. "So, do you want to come back to my place after this?" he asked, with the confidence of a man who had just insulted my metabolism and hoarded all the breadsticks. I blinked. Why would I do that? I mean, the chemistry is obvious. Across the table, Sarah was frantically shaking her head. Lemon Girl? She was now eating a plain pat of butter. I stood up so fast my chair screeched. "I have to go." "Wait, what?" Steve frowned. "Yeah, house is on fire," I blurted. Mike blinked. "Wait, what?" But I was already speed-walking out of there, Sarah, right behind me. In the car, Sarah looked at me, then burst out laughing. "I am so sorry," she wheezed. "Sarah!" "He fought someone over skee ball." "I know." We sat there for a moment, just processing. And then my phone buzzed. A text from Steve. "Forgot to leave a tip. Kinda rude. Also, sure house is on fire or just afraid of our connection, Lo?" I blocked him immediately. Moral of the story: never trust your best friend when they say, "I swear he's perfect for you." Story 15. So, this happened about 2 months ago, and I still think about it almost every day. I was just getting home from work, dead tired, dragging my feet up the steps to my apartment, and I see someone sitting on the floor across the hallway. Hoodie up, knees pulled to their chest, duffel bag next to them. I almost didn't recognize her at first. It was Emily, my boyfriend's daughter. I hadn't seen her in nearly 2 years, not since the day she packed up all her stuff, slammed the front door, and told her dad she never wanted to speak to him again. She was 16 back then, and she meant it. She moved in with her mom out of state the next day, and everything since had been radio silence. Now, here she was, alone, looking like she hadn't slept properly in days. I didn't even say her name at first, just Emily. She looked up. Her face was puffy, nose red, like she'd been crying for hours. And all she said was, "Is he home?" I brought her inside without even thinking. She looked so fragile, like she might collapse if I didn't. She didn't want food, didn't want water. Just stood in the hallway, holding that beat-up duffel bag like it was the only thing keeping her upright. My boyfriend, Chris, wasn't home yet. He was working late, so I sat her down on the couch and asked her what was going on. And she just stared ahead for a while. Then she said, "I didn't know where else to go." That hit me hard. I mean, I'm not even her mom. I've been with Chris for about 3 years, but Emily was always distant with me. Polite, but distant. So for her to come to me out of nowhere, it had to be bad. I asked her if she was okay, if something happened at her mom's dad, and that's when she looked me dead in the eye and said, "Number I left because of him, because of Dad." I froze. I didn't know what to say. Chris always told me she was a rebellious teenager, that she didn't like rules, didn't like being told what to do. He made it sound like she just got into one too many fights with him and left to spite him. But now she was shaking her head, tearing up again, saying, "He's not the man you think he is." I didn't push her right away. I just told her she could stay the night, no questions. I gave her some blankets, let her shower, and made up the guest bed. She barely said a word after that. Just hugged me once, hugged me and said thank you. That night, I laid awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering what the hell was going on, wondering what she meant, wondering if I ever really knew who I was living with. The next morning, Chris came home early. He'd stayed at his brother's overnight to help him fix some busted pipes or something, or at least that's what he said. I hadn't told him Emily was here yet. I needed time to figure out what was even going on. But of course, he saw her shoes by the door the second he walked in, stiffened up immediately. "Is she here?" he asked. I nodded. "She came last night. Said she didn't feel safe." He scoffed. "Yeah, because she's dramatic. You should have called me." That rubbed me the wrong way. The girl looked wrecked. Whatever this was, it wasn't just teen drama. I told him to give her space, let her sleep, and surprisingly, he didn't push it. Just muttered something and went out to the garage to tinker with his tools. That's when I went into the guest room to check on her. She was still asleep, but something was sticking out of her bag, a journal. I hesitated. I really did. I don't go through people's stuff. But my gut was screaming at me, and honestly, I was scared. I opened it, and what I read in those first few pages made my stomach drop. It wasn't just some rebellious teen venting. It was detailed, dated. Things Chris had said to her, things he'd done, subtle, manipulative stuff, controlling behavior, monitoring what she wore, who she texted, telling her she was too emotional, making her feel like she was crazy. But then it escalated. One entry described him coming into her room after drinking and sitting on the edge of her bed. She wrote how she pretended to be asleep, how she could feel him watching her, breathing heavy, how he didn't say a word, just sat there. That entry ended with, "I don't think I can sleep here anymore." I felt like I couldn't breathe. My hands were shaking. I didn't want to believe it. I loved this man. I lived with him. I thought I knew him. But deep down, something clicked. The weird comments he made about girls dressing too grown when we watched television. The way he'd complain about Emily being moody every time she came to visit. The way she'd never meet his eyes. And I just sat there on the edge of the bed, holding that journal, realizing that everything I thought was solid might have been a damn lie. I stayed in that room for probably an hour, just reading through more of her journal. Every page made it harder to breathe. She wrote like someone who's been screaming into a void for years. No one listening. Not even me. She mentioned trying to tell her mom once, years ago. Said her mom accused her of making it up just because she didn't like Chris. That he was a good man and Emily was just acting out. That part hit me hard. I remembered hearing that same story secondhand, but Chris had framed it like Emily was some manipulative little brat trying to stir drama. Now I saw it differently. He'd been spinning a web from day one. After reading all that, I didn't know what to do. I sat there, numb, until I heard the garage door shut, Chris coming back inside. He walked down the hall, then just stood at the guest room doorway, staring at me, at the journal in my lap. He didn't say anything for a few seconds. Just looked. His face was blank, but his eyes? Something shifted. Like a mask slipping off. Like he knew I knew. Then he said, real calm, "So you read it?" I didn't answer. He stepped in a little closer. "You shouldn't believe everything that girl writes down. You know how she is." I finally stood up. "She's not lying, Chris." He smirked. "You really think I'd do something to my own stepdaughter?" I didn't even recognize the man in front of me anymore. There was this edge in his voice, like he was trying to gaslight me now. Like he thought if he just stayed calm and said the right things, I'd fold like everyone else apparently had. But I didn't. I told him to get out. Not just out of the room, out of the house. Right now. That's when the calm cracked. His jaw clenched. "You're seriously choosing her over me? After everything we've built?" I said, "You don't get to build a life on someone else's pain." He didn't leave right away. Tried a few more guilt trips. Even turned on the waterworks. But I wasn't budging. I was shaking the entire time, but I held the door open and just waited. Eventually, he left. Slammed the door so hard it rattled the windows. I locked it behind him. Then double-locked it. Emily came out of the room a few minutes later, pale, wide-eyed. I just hugged her. I didn't say anything, just held her while she cried. I'd failed her once, without even realizing it, but I wasn't gonna do it again. So after Chris stormed out, I sat down with Emily and just asked her straight up what she wanted to do. Cops? A lawyer? Therapy? She was still pretty shaken, but kept saying she didn't want to make it worse. She was scared no one would believe her, especially since her mom had already shut her down once before. But I told her, "You've got me now. I believe you, and I'm not letting this go." I didn't sleep that night, just paced the house, waiting for something to happen. I kept checking the cameras on the front door, expecting him to show up again, but he didn't, at least not that night. The next morning, I called my cousin, she's a cop, not in our town but close enough, and explained everything. She said we needed to get Emily out of the house now and file a report immediately, especially since we had that journal. So I packed us both up and we went to stay with a friend of mine 2 towns over. That same day, I helped Emily file the report. Watching her relive everything in front of a total stranger, it wrecked me. But she handled it like a champ. It was like once she started talking, all the years of silence just burst out at once. And when the officer read some of the journal entries, his whole demeanor changed. Like, this wasn't just a maybe situation. This was serious. Later that week, they brought Chris in for questioning. And here's the kicker. The moment they started digging around, other people came forward. A girl he used to coach. A friend of Emily's who'd stayed over a few times. Suddenly, the picture got way darker, way faster. Meanwhile, her mom, still in total denial, she accused me of manipulating Emily, said I was driving a wedge in the family. She even tried to show up at my friend's house to take Emily home, but we'd already made sure there was a temporary protection order in place. It was pure chaos for a while. Court dates, interviews, back and forth with lawyers. But I stayed by Emily's side through all of it. And slowly, she started to heal. I got her into therapy, helped her start online school so she could avoid running into people who didn't know what was going on. We built a new kind of normal. Chris is now awaiting trial. The charges are serious, way more than just Emily's case now, and the weight of everything is finally shifting off her shoulders and onto his. I think the part that sticks with me the most is how close it all came to staying hidden. If she hadn't left that journal out, if I'd never seen it, I probably would have kept calling that man family. And now I see him for exactly what he is.